Shocking rejection. CEO ditches bodyguards for this weak girl. What happened next is devastating. In the heart of the busy city, the streets buzzed like a live wire. It was just an ordinary day, but all eyes were glued to the towering corporate building. Whispers floated like ghosts among the crowd, hushed gasps erupted, and the tension crackled in the air. Why would the powerful CEO, known for his ruthless ways, abandon his team of intimidating bodyguards for a fragile girl who barely seemed more than a teenager? People stared, wide-eyed and slack-jawed, as they watched him step into the sunlight, his shadow darkening the pavement. The girl was nothing like the glossy world he dominated. Her jeans were frayed, her hair unkempt, and her eyes harboring secrets too vast to comprehend. He smiled down at her, a genuine warmth that caught everyone off guard. Was this a moment of weakness? Or a desperate gamble with fate? As the whispers turned into conspiratorial murmurs, the girl stumbled forward, barely holding on to her thoughts, and that shaky glance between them seemed to amplify the curiosity. Who was she? What kind of magic or madness could have lured a kingpin away from his throne and placed him at the feet of a seemingly unremarkable girl? Fear rippled through the crowd, curiosity piqued. Was she the key to his downfall? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The chaos of the moment pressed down like an anvil. Suddenly, a cacophony erupted from a nearby alley, a clatter of metal, a gasp of betrayal. Two suited thugs emerged, their eyes narrowing with a lethal intent. The girl froze, fear morphing into desperate determination. Everyone held their breath. What was she hiding? What would she do next? Would this weak, trembling girl hold the power to change everything? With a sharp inhale, she reached for the CEO's hand, and in that instant, the world seemed to tilt. Could love really bridge the gap between their two worlds? Or would it lead to a devastating collapse? And just as quickly, like a violent storm, thoughts swirled. The crowd leaned in, hearts racing, pulsating with the thrill of what was coming. What awaited them in the shadows? Danger or salvation? The thugs stood menacingly, their posture radiating a violent energy that sent chills through the crowd. People exchanged uneasy glances, nerves twitching like exposed wires. The girl squeezed the CEO's hand tightly, grounding herself in the moment. His presence felt like a lighthouse flickering in a storm, but the tempest brewing around them was far from settled. "Stay behind me," he murmured, his voice low and protective. But the girl shook her head, her grip unwavering. There was a fire in her eyes, a spark of defiance that hadn't been there a moment ago. "You don't know them," she said, her voice shaking yet fierce. "They won't back down." The words hung in the air, heavy with an unspoken truth that left everyone rattled. The suited thugs moved closer, their glares filled with an ominous hunger. A cruel smirk twisted the lips of one of them as if he was savoring the tackle about to unfold. A cry erupted from the crowd as a spectator, overwhelmed by the tension, suddenly pulled out his phone. "Call the police." His voice broke through the haze, but it was met with confusion. Who would come? Suddenly, the first thug lunged forward, reaching out to grab the girl. In a flash, the CEO spun around, faced the thug head-on, and pushed the girl behind him. "Get away from her." His voice erupted, seething with authority and a fierce protectiveness that sent a shiver through the onlookers. The girl's heart raced, her mind blurring the lines between reality and the fantasy of heroes she'd read about. But this was not fiction. This was real, and his body formed a barricade of muscle and resolve between her and the danger. "Really?" The thug laughed, circling them like a predator, eyes dark and calculating. "You think you can protect this little mouse?" His gaze pivoted to the girl, inspecting her like a piece of fragile art. "You have no idea what you've stumbled into, sweetheart. His protection won't save you." The crowd gasped, eyes widened in disbelief. Could this fragile girl actually have something so valuable that it threatened the mighty CEO? What was her secret? "I know people," she shot back, her voice steadier than her knees. "And they'll come for me. They won't let you have me." The thugs exchanged glances, clearly amused yet momentarily uncertain. She had stirred something unexpected within them, a flicker of apprehension. With a disdainful snort, the other thug brandished a weapon, a gleaming blade that glinted menacingly in the sun. "We'll see about that." A moment of frozen tension rippled through the air, as everyone held their breath, the weight of anticipation thick enough to cut. Would the CEO fight? Or would he back down, relinquishing the girl to her fate? The crowd murmured in shock, dread pooling in their stomachs as the girl somehow stepped out from behind the CEO as if she'd made a monumental choice. "If you think you can scare me, you're dead wrong." Her defiance cut through the thick pent-up anxiety like a hot knife through butter, but what seemed like an act of bravery was a gamble that could lead to chaos or an awakening of strength neither had seen before. As the thugs advanced, hassle and struggle about to ensue, the whispers in the crowd mutated into roars of excitement and fear. Whose side would the city take? The mighty protector or the girl whose hidden power remained intangible? As the clash appeared inevitable, the girl caught the CEO's eye. In that moment, a silent connection passed between them, igniting sparks of unspoken trust. Would they fight together or would the brutal reality of their worlds collide? But just then, the unmistakable sound of sirens echoed in the distance, growing louder and louder. Relief mingled with apprehension as they awaited the arrival of the police. Would it tip the scales? Or was this just the beginning of an even darker turn of events? The air crackled with tension as everyone braced themselves for what was to come. Would justice ride in with the sirens, or would danger remain? In that split second, the stakes elevated, and life as they knew it teetered on the edge. The thugs halted, momentarily taken aback by the sirens drawing closer like a looming specter. They exchanged glances, their amused confidence shifting to wary calculations. For a brief, fleeting second, the girl felt the tide turn in her favor. The crowd held its collective breath, the tension palpable, as if the air had condensed into solid matter. "Listen, sweetheart," the thug with the blade sneered, breaking the silence. "You think the cops are gonna save you? We're not going anywhere." With a flick of his wrist, he waved the knife, catching the light again. At that moment, the CEO seemed to regain his composure, stepping forward with renewed resolve. No longer was he just shielding the girl, he stood as a warrior, ready to defend his realm. "You underestimate her," he declared, his voice like thunder in the silence, tinged with a fierce loyalty. "You don't know who you're dealing with." The girl felt an electric jolt at his words. Beneath the surface, her heart raced, half alarmed, half emboldened. She hadn't fully accepted her own strength yet, but his faith in her flickered like an ember waiting to burst into flame. But the thugs only laughed, shaking their heads in disbelief. They were predators, and they smelled weakness lurking in every corner. "Cops don't scare us." The other thug stepped in closer, his demeanor shifting to hostile. "We'll have what we came for, one way or another." Just then, a flicker in the girl's mind sparked an idea, impatience bubbling beneath her skin. "Wait," she called out, her voice firming. "What if I can prove my worth?" The words spilled out before she had time to think them through. The thugs paused, intrigued. "What do you mean?" the knife-wielding thug asked, narrowing his eyes. I can help you," came her impulsive offer, heart thudding in her chest. "You're looking for something valuable, right? I know where it is. Just give me a chance." The crowd buzzed at her unexpected boldness, uncertainty flickering like the shadows cast by the dimming daylight. They buzzed with anticipation, but fear wasn't far behind. "What's this?" The thugs exchanged glances that hinted at curiosity and skepticism. "You think we're gonna let you walk away, just like that?" "I'll take you to it," she insisted, the adrenaline fueling her courage. "You don't need to fight. Just hear me out. You don't have to hurt anyone." Behind her, the CEO's expression flickered with disbelief, but his protective instinct simmered beneath. It was a dangerous risk. Could she actually lead them? "Swallow this bait," the first thug spoke up, voice thick with mockery. "You must be dumber than you look." Panic surged through her as the seconds stretched into eternity. But she steadied herself, recalling all the times she felt unseen, unheard, a dormant fire, now roaring to be recognized. What were the alternatives? Faces in the crowd twisted between terror and hope. It wasn't just her future hanging in the balance, it was the possible conclusion to this disturbing standoff. With sirens now echoing just around the corner, the tense standoff threatened to unravel at any moment. Would they delve deeper into this dangerous negotiation, or would a final act of violence erupt before order could be restored? Suddenly, a loud crash resonated behind her, sending jaws dropping and hearts racing. A black SUV skidded into view, tires screeching against the pavement. "Get down," the CEO barked, instinctively pulling the girl closer. In that chaotic moment, every intention crystallized, alliances were made and broken. The thugs sprang into action, a shroud of violence encircling them. The sirens blared, the crowd screamed, and the air turned electric with impending chaos. Would the girl's desperate gamble pay off, or had she just lit the fuse to an explosion of chaos? Only time would reveal the true cost of her gamble and the darkness that lay ahead. The black SUV loomed like a beast, ready to pounce as the crowd scattered in every direction, panic unleashed. The girl's heart raced, not just from the terror around her, but from the decision she had made. She had stepped into the fray, daring to offer the thugs a way out. Was this a moment of desperation or a stroke of genius? The SUV door burst open, and a figure emerged. It was a man cloaked in darkness, eyes shielded behind a pair of dark sunglasses. He held an air of authority that demanded attention. The chaos swirled, but he stood still, a stone amidst the tempest. The thugs halted, momentarily confused. They were predators, instinctively on the attack, but this newcomer exuded a tranquil menace that kept their instincts at bay. "You need to get out of here," the newcomer shouted, voice booming, sending a ripple of alarm through the crowd. "Now." The first thug still brandished his knife, thoughts racing behind his startled expression. "Who the hell are you?" He spat, irritation crackling the air like static electricity. The other thug squared his shoulders, sizing up the threat that had suddenly emerged. "I'm someone who doesn't like loose ends," he replied coolly, stepping forward, his hands free but ready. The crowd fell silent, a well of uncertainty forming around them. That simple statement hung in the air, thickening the tension. The girl couldn't help but feel drawn to this figure. He seemed sure of himself, a stark contrast to the chaos and fear that enveloped them all. The CEO, still protective, shifted his stance, scanning both the thugs and the newcomer. What was about to unfold? "Let her go," the man continued, voice layered with authority, breaking through the noise. "You don't want to escalate this." The knife-wielding thug laughed, though there was an edge to it. "Why don't you try stopping us?" he taunted, glancing at his partner for affirmation. But the response was a hesitation, a crack forming in their bravado. "Because you'll lose," the man replied. His confidence was infectious, vibrating through the air. "Back down while you can." The girl felt a strange thrill at his words, marveling at the calm in the eye of a storm. Perhaps they could win this standoff. Just then, the sound of police sirens intensified, drowning out the murmurs of the crowd. Hope fluttered and flickered, but the thugs' eyes darted, calculating their next move amidst the looming threat of law enforcement drawing closer. "Let us get out of here," the second thug hissed, a tremble of uncertainty slipping into his bravado. "No way," the first thug growled, stubbornness coloring his tone. "We're not letting her off that easy." Suddenly, the girl broke through the noise. "Wait," she shouted. Fear coursed through her, but she pressed on with a newfound conviction. "I can help you. I can help you find what you're looking for." For a brief moment, every eye fixed on her like a spotlight igniting the stage. The tension in the air shifted, and the thugs paused once more, their confidence cracking. The crowd held its breath. Would she bridge the divide or deepen the conflict? "Enough," the man replied, stepping closer to the girl, shielding her. "Do not play games with these guys. They're dangerous." "But I can make it worth your while," she insisted, desperation mingling with determination in her voice. "Please, just listen." The moment hung heavy, a fragile balance teetering on the edge of irreversible chaos or an unexpected alliance. But what would they decide? The sirens wailed louder, a sign that time was running out. As darkness engulfed the scene, so did the question: would she dive deeper into this dangerous game, or would she walk a path riddled with devastating consequences? In that heartbeat of a moment, decisions would shape destinies, but what awaited them in the shadows was unknown. Would she find courage in the face of despair, or would hope flicker out altogether? The first thug's laughter dissolved into an unsettling silence, his bravado crumbling under the weight of uncertainty. The girl glanced at the CEO, still protective, but something in his eyes told her he was weighing his options, questioning her sanity. "Why should we trust you?" The knife-wielding thug spat, skeptically taking a step closer, causing the girl's heart to race. "What do you have that we need?" The weight of the crowd's stares bore down on her. The sirens grew louder, and she sensed time slipping away. She drew a deep breath, her mind racing through the fragments of information she had gathered over the last few days. Could she really do this? "I have connections," she said, the words tumbling out, bold yet shaky. "I know people who can get things done, things you want." Her voice steadied. "I can help you make your escape without getting caught." The second thug shifted, unease growing on his face. "And you expect us to believe that?" He growled, scanning her, clearly unconvinced. "Yes, right," the pristine man chipped in, his voice a low growl. "You think we're planning on just walking away?" "Yes," she blurted, desperation pushing her. "If you let me go, I'll show you how to get what you really want. But you need to trust me. There's no time to waste." Amidst this tense exchange, even the chaos of the crowd faded into an unsettling hush. Her heart pounded wildly as she faced them, fighting the urge to glance back at the SUV or the approach of the police. Then, she noticed the man with sunglasses take a controlled step forward. "This is your chance, bloodthirsty fool. Take the deal or face consequences," he said, his tone chilling. The thugs hesitated, looking between each other, their knives briefly lowered. "Shut up. Why do you care?" The first thug yelled, bitterness twisted in his voice, anger boiling just beneath the surface. "Because I can make you rich beyond your wildest dreams," she said, her voice rising in conviction. "But only if you listen and let me lead you." The second thug's eyes flicked toward the approaching sirens, his panic rising. "We don't have much time enough," roared the first thug, fear spilling over into rage. "You think you can just barter your life for a little more time? Your words mean nothing to me." The man in the sunglasses turned to the girl, narrowed eyes glinting behind his shades. There was a question there: was she worth the risk? He shifted ever so slightly, confident yet tense, his focus sharpening on the thugs. "Your time is short. In about 10 minutes, the place will be surrounded. You need to act fast. Are you really willing to gamble everything on this girl?" he asked the thugs, his voice like steel. A fleeting silence filled the air, thickening with urgency. "Enough games," the first thug hissed, lunging forward with his knife. The moment shattered, chaos erupting anew. The girl instinctively ducked behind the figure of the man in sunglasses, her heart hammering in her chest. "Are you crazy?" she shouted. "You'll regret it. I swear." Yet, both thugs seemed caught in a frenzy, weaving through the crowd, shouting orders as onlookers screamed and backed away, panic flaring again. Suddenly, the CEO barked, "Get the girl out of here," before tackling the nearest thug with surprising ferocity. In a split second, the scene spiraled into mayhem. The man in sunglasses turned to the girl with an intense look. "You have to get out now. I'll handle this," he commanded. "No," she shouted, her voice drowning in the chaos, but the thugs were not backing down. "You'll pay for this." One spat, determination sharpening his focus as he prepared to strike again. Each heartbeat felt like an eternity as the girl struggled within the turmoil, feeling torn between wanting to help and needing to protect herself. And just like that, a single thought pierced the clamor: what if she had made a terrible mistake? Then, as if in slow motion, the thug's knife glinted like a deadly comet aimed straight for them. Would the storm pull them into its vortex, leaving nothing but shattered dreams behind? As the piercing wail of sirens echoed closer, a desperate choice loomed ahead. Was there any way out? The air crackled with tension, and the girl's vision narrowed, a whirlwind of chaos swirling around her. The CEO, still grappling with the thug, grunted as the blade flashed dangerously close. Fear clawed at her throat as she yelled for him to move, her voice breaking through the din around them. "Get down." Without thinking, she pushed him away just as the thug swung wildly, missing by inches. The blade sliced through the air where the CEO had been standing, and they both stumbled back, narrowly avoiding disaster amidst the chaos. Sirens blared closer, a reminder that time was running out. She saw the faces in the crowd transform from shock to raw terror, darting glances between her and the thugs. People screamed. Mothers clutched their children. The sense of impending doom spread, thick and suffocating. The CEO recovered quickly, his eyes darting around like a hawk searching for prey. "We need a plan," he bellowed, muscles tensed, ready to fight again. But as he spoke, the second thug rushed forward, slashing his knife through the air with the intent of landing a brutal blow. The CEO barely sidestepped, but the impact sent him crashing into a vendor's stand, sending bottled drinks scattering like bullets throughout that confined space. "Run!" he roared, desperately waving the girl toward a narrow alley. But the weight of despair pooled deep in her gut as uncertainty clawed at her mind. Would there be a way out? And then, just as the chaos reached a fever pitch, she spotted a flash of recognition in the man in sunglasses. He stepped back, assessing the scene. "This isn't your fight," he shouted, voice firm and commanding. "Step aside, and I'll gamble my life for yours." The girl felt a strange sense of comfort but also a rush of panic. "You can't. What if just go?" he barked with an urgency that surprised her. In that moment, the surging emotions wrapped around her like a noose, suffocating and enchanting all at once. The first thug, now fully enraged, lunged at the CEO again, but his attention faltered long enough for the man in sunglasses to dart forward. He drew a weapon from his belt, a sleek firearm glinting ominously, and leveled it at the thug. The crowd sucked in a collective breath. "Drop your blade or you'll taste that steel." His voice sliced through the chaos like a hot knife. An eerie silence settled momentarily, eyes widening at the unexpected turn of events. "Do you even know who you're messing with?" The first thug spat, pulse quickening. The standoff was palpable, every second stretched taut, but the man held firm, unblinking. "I know exactly who I'm dealing with." He didn't waver, even as the thug's face twisted in disbelief. "You have one shot to walk away, or this ends here." As the thug hesitated, the second thug snapped out of his own haze, eyeing the growing number of police cars rolling up. Panic surged back into the mix, but before anyone could react, the first thug exploded into motion, diving toward the man as a blade glimmered dangerously in the fading light. "No!" the girl shrieked, paralyzed with dread. And then a deafening bang. Screams erupted. The world around her fractured into chaos once more as she grappled with shock. There was no time to think, to process. All she felt was the weight of despair crushing her chest as the barrel smoke swirled and clouded her vision. "Go!" the man in sunglasses shouted again, a fierce look etched into his face. "Now." But the question hung heavy in the air. What had she just set into motion? In that breathless moment of uncertainty, a chilling thought crawled into her mind. What if she had put them all in danger instead of saving them? As shadows encroached and the sirens wailed louder, she dashed toward the alley, heart racing. If she didn't figure this out now, it would all be over. But then another explosion of sound. A flash of blue and red lights flooded the street, painting the scene in relentless waves. Would escape still be possible, or had the tide finally turned against them all? She stumbled into the alley, gasping for breath, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The cacophony of screams faded slightly, yet the weight of dread wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. Each step felt like an echo, each breath was a reminder that she was in over her head. "Why are you still here?" The man in sunglasses appeared behind her, urgency dripping from his voice. He stepped forward, blocking her escape with a fierce glare. "You need to get somewhere safe." They need help," she stammered, barely comprehending the turmoil tearing through her mind. The images of chaos, the man who gambled everything for her, the thugs, the screaming crowd played on repeat. "What if they're hurt?" "Trust me," he said, a sharp twitch of impatience flashing across his face. "You think this is a movie? We don't have time for heroics." We must focus on getting you out of here. His voice softened a fraction. Please. The sirens surged back into existence, echoing off the brick walls like a relentless reminder of the danger lurking just outside. As the girl hesitated, a shadow loomed at the mouth of the alley, and she turned to see the CEO emerging, disheveled but unbroken. He was breathing heavily, eyes wide with disbelief. Where did you go? He coughed, skin gray under a sheen of sweat. Are you all right? I pushed you to safety, but her words tumbled out as panic gripped her heart. They need help they'll manage. He interrupted, voice rising. I don't know what they are capable of. Come with me. Do you really think? She shook her head, breath hitching. Do you think they'll just let this go? We can't leave them. Before another word escaped her lips, a scream broke through the tension, shattering the moment. It came from the street. A voice familiar yet strained. The girl's stomach clenched. Fear surged through her veins as she stepped into the shadows, trying to listen. Just then, a flash of red poured into the alley, reflecting off the walls. Look. The man in sunglasses pointed. You need to make a decision. The commotion outside escalated, shouting, the sound of feet pounding against asphalt, a loud crash as a barricade was knocked over. Desperation clawed at her insides. Could they really just leave? Was it wrong to care? She felt tethered between duty and survival. Go. Now. He shoved her toward a door at the far end of the alley, almost opening it with his body. I'll hold them off, but you have to promise to run. No. She pulled her arm back. I can't just abandon everyone. What if something happens? The CEO grabbed her shoulder tightly, eyes glistening with urgency. What's at stake here is far bigger than you know. You need to focus on your escape. I'll find a way to fix this. A fire ignited within her, fueled by uncertainty and desperation. He was putting her safety over everything else. She couldn't let that sacrifice be in vain. What if I don't want to run? She whispered, trembling. Then you're going to end up just like them, he shot back, pointing toward the chaos beyond the alleyway, where blue and red lights danced like angry phantoms. Now go. The decision loomed before her, a bleak chasm. Could she really turn her back? Or was it time to leap into the unknown, guided by faith that they could somehow pull through? She glanced from the door to the scuffle outside and back again. The man in sunglasses held her gaze, steadfast. Somewhere in his eyes lay a secret she wasn't privy to. Another crash resounded, shaking the ground beneath her. Choose. He demanded. Her heart raced, every moment stretching taut. There was no time left. Would she run toward freedom or stay and face the tempest? The choice felt monumental, full of consequences she couldn't predict. As the choice settled on her shoulders, an unexpected sound erupted behind her. A fierce shout mingled with an eerie calmness. It was the signal she'd hoped wouldn't come. Had the tide turned against everyone she'd tried to save? With one final look back, she made her choice and plunged into her uncertain future. She barely registered the door swinging open in front of her. The darkness inside was thick with tension, but she didn't hesitate. With a shaky breath, she dashed through, the weight of decision pressing down harder than the shadows enveloping her. The door slammed shut behind her, but the chaos outside echoed in her ears. She pressed her back against the cool metal, heart racing. Each beat sent ripples of terror through her, almost drowning out the sounds of her panicked breath. They were still out there, facing horrors she could only imagine. Why are you still in here? A sharp voice cut through the darkness. She turned to the interior, realizing the room was filled with crates, stacked high and looming, creating narrow paths. Her eyes adjusted slowly to the dim light filtering in from a flickering bulb overhead. There, standing beside a crate, was a man she recognized, not one of the suited thugs, but rather a colleague from a previous job. Confusion settled over her like a heavy blanket. Jake, she whispered, gripping a crate for support. What are you doing here? He shook his head slowly, the fear in his eyes evident. I was working late. Heard the commotion, thought maybe I could help. He didn't meet her gaze, looking past her in anxious moments. You shouldn't have come in here. Neither should you. Panic started to seep back into her voice. They need us, Jake. They're outside, and I can't just ignore them. Before he could reply, a guttural roar split the air, followed by a cacophony of splintering wood. The sound came from the door she had just rushed through. She spun around, terror clawing at her throat. The bodyguards had followed her. "Get down!" Jake's shout rang out, and she instinctively dropped to the floor behind a crate as the door flew open. Heavy boots thundered in, voices barking orders and curses that misted through the air. "Find her. She can't have gotten far." The girl held her breath, heart hammering wildly in her chest. She felt the vibrations of footsteps approaching her hiding spot. Scrambling to the side, she dared to peek through the cracks between crates. A tall figure brushed past her, scanning the room with a predatory gaze. The man in sunglasses. She hadn't thought she would see him again. Her thoughts tangled. Was he a protector or just another piece in this twisted game? "Search everywhere," he ordered. "She's in here. I can feel it." Panic surged through her. She was trapped, uncertain who to trust as the tension escalated. The shadows danced ominously around her, threatening to consume her if she made a single noise. Jake, who had crouched down next to her, whispered urgently, "What do we do?" Her mind raced. They were seconds away from being discovered, and she had no plan. Should they fight? Hide? Flight felt like a coward's choice, but staying could mean certain doom. I don't know," she admitted, struggling to keep her voice steady. Moments stretched as they listened to the rustle of movement, the hunting dogs zeroing in on their target. This was not how it was supposed to go. Her thoughts swirled in a frenzied dance of uncertainty and fear. Would she sacrifice herself to save others? Did it even matter, given the chaos around them? Just moments ago, she had chosen freedom, but at what cost? "Let us go," she suddenly whispered, resolving her thoughts with a measured wisp of bravery. "Where?" Jake looked at her, bewildered. "Out the back." She nodded toward a faint light spilling through an emergency exit. Without another word, they inched toward the rear of the room, pushing aside boxes and crates. But as they reached the exit, a shadow slipped into view, blocking their way. The girl gasped, pressing against the wall, her mind racing. Would they escape the nightmare, or would the darkness consume them whole? The seconds ticked by, heavy with dread as the looming figure advanced. How would it all unfold? The figure stepped closer, illuminated by weak light filtering in from the exit. A chill swept through the air as she caught a glimpse of the familiar frame. It was Alex, the man she thought she'd left behind in a world of shadows and secrets. His expression was unreadable, torn between urgency and something darker. "Get back," the girl hissed, her heart racing. She motioned for Jake to remain silent, fear intertwining with desperation. "Wait." Alex seemed to hesitate, softening for a fleeting moment. "I'm not here to hurt you." The words hung heavy between them, a fragile thread amidst the chaos. Jake glanced at her, worry etched across his face. She felt the tension in the air, thick like smoke, wrapping around them as if the darkness itself held its breath. "Then what do you want?" she pressed, her voice barely more than a whisper, each syllable tight with suspicion. He stepped forward, the light revealing a slight glimmer of fear behind his normally steely gaze. "You need to trust me. There's a way out, but we have to move now before they find us." "Trust you?" she scoffed, her pulse spiking. "This is the same person who left me to face those men alone. You don't understand," he snapped, his anger flaring. "I didn't have a choice. I thought it was safer that way." She could feel the doubt creeping in, twisting her insides like a venomous snake. Was there truly a path before them, or was this simply another trap masked in false promises? The sounds from the doorway escalated, the men outside growing impatient. Wood creaked ominously as they began rummaging through the crates, their rough voices taunting and threatening. Her heart hammered even louder as a surge of adrenaline kicked in. "We can't stay here," Jake hissed, glancing nervously at the door. In that moment, she made her choice. She couldn't stay hidden forever. That sentence weighed heavy on her soul. "Fine, but if this is a trick, I won't hesitate to make you regret it," she said, the courage in her voice layering over her fear. "We don't have time for this," Alex urged, moving forward. "Follow me." With one last glance at the opening behind them, she nodded, her heart a storm of dread and adrenaline. The trio moved quickly, navigating a maze of crates and shadows. Each corner whispered possibilities of both safety and treachery as they skittered through the dim space. Suddenly, a scream cut through the air from outside, piercing the tension like a knife. She froze, body paralyzed as she turned back toward the sound. It was a chilling reminder that danger was close, perhaps even closer than she had hoped. "Keep going," Alex urged again, but the girl hesitated, a heaviness settling over her. She felt a spark of guilt, wondering who might be left behind in this vicious game. "Wait, what if there are others?" She gasped, the question tumbling out before she could stop it. "Not everyone can be saved," he snapped back, urgency threading through his voice. "Do you really want to risk your life for people who didn't care about you, who left you to fend for yourself?" The truth struck her like a punch. His words carried a weight that sent pain deep into her gut, and for a split second, she was trapped in turbulent thoughts. Was survival the right choice? But the next explosion of noise pulled her back from her spiraling doubts. The door burst open again with a crash, and she felt the ground beneath her shifting, the decision becoming a matter more urgent than ever. "Now!" Jake shouted, pulling her away from the gnashing danger. They pushed through the shadowed exit, the light blinding her for a moment. As they emerged into the night air, her lungs filled deeply with a sweet mix of hope and fear. But the sound of heavy footfalls followed them, dragging darkness along like a shroud that Walden T let go. They raced across the lot, the adrenaline fueling their desperate flight. Just as they rounded the corner, she glanced over her shoulder. The man in sunglasses was hot on their trail, rage fueling his every step. In an instant, a new dread settled. Would they make it far enough to escape? Or was this moment of freedom but an illusion before the final snare? Behind the looming shadows, Alex turned to her, his expression stark. "If we don't do something now, there won't be a next time." She could feel the finality wrapping itself around her like a noose. What action would they take next, and would it seal their fate? Time would tell, but as reality pressed in, she understood one thing for certain: the night was far from over. The darkness seemed endless as they sprinted through the alley, shadows hugging tightly around them. The girl's heart pounded like a war drum, adrenaline blending with fear. Behind her, Jake struggled to keep pace, panting heavily. The sound of footsteps echoed ominously close, and each thud sent a shiver down her spine. "Keep moving," she urged, her voice slicing through the thick air, barely above a whisper. Adrenaline surged as they rounded a corner, the faint glow of streetlights flickering ahead. There, she spotted an opening, an exit from the labyrinth of chaos swirling behind them. "Over there," she pointed, desperation fueling her voice, but even as they veered toward freedom, a surge of doubt twisted in her gut. What lay in wait? Would the monsters unleashed today be vanquished, or simply transformed, slinking back into their corners for another day? Her breath hitched. Was she leading Jake closer to safety, or deeper into a trap? "Go," she urged Jake, her trust split evenly between the choices ahead and the memories of those left behind. Yet, the question hung heavy: who was truly worth saving? Just then, a dark figure emerged from the shadows, the man in sunglasses. His authoritative presence shifted the mood around them. "This way," he called, steady and sure, just as the sound of police sirens wailed in the distance. "Are you kidding me?" she shot back, disbelief coloring her voice. "You want us to trust you after everything?" But the moment to argue slipped away as the footsteps behind them grew closer. Desperation clawed through her instincts, spurring her toward the man who had shown power when chaos reigned. "Can you save us?" she asked, her responsibility weighing down like a boulder. The man nodded, a flicker of determination in his eyes. "I can protect you from them, but we have to move now. They'll follow you." Without wasting another moment, she turned and dashed toward him. A quick glance back revealed Jake still catching his breath, his face twisted with uncertainty. "You can trust him," she shouted, hoping to quell Jake's fears. "I think he can get us out." The man led them through a narrow passage, the air thick with tension, their escape route closed in with every hurried step. They rounded a corner, and he stopped at a steel door, quickly accessing a keypad. "Hurry," he urged, the urgency pressing against them like a physical force. The door swung open with a heavy creak, revealing an inconspicuous warehouse filled with crates and shadows. Jake darted inside first, glancing nervously toward the street. The girl hesitated but felt the man's steady hand on her back, gently nudging her forward. As they stepped inside, the room felt alive with whispers of discontent. Her heart fluttered. "What now?" she gasped. "Now we wait," he replied. "We need to give the others time to gather." "Others?" she questioned, the uncertainty gnawing at her like a pestering itch, but no sooner had the words escaped her lips than a series of loud crashes resonated outside, followed by a slew of shouts. Her heart sank. Were the thugs set on revenge? Would this sanctuary quickly morph into a battlefield? "Stay quiet," the man instructed with a sharp tone, eyes narrowing in focus. Jake nodded, but she felt the panic creeping in once more. Finding herself rooted to the ground, she scanned the room, desperate for answers. The man seemed wholly unfazed, standing tall and stoic, almost as if he were the calm before the storm. But the girl's mind spiraled. How could she trust anyone in this mess? Suddenly, the door burst open, revealing a throng of figures rushing inside, more suited men flooding the space. Panic surged and ire ignited within her. "No!" she shouted, instinctively stepping forward. "Stop!" the man in sunglasses barked, raising a hand with authority, his face etched with intense determination. "Get to safety. I'll hold them off." "Not without you," she countered, defiance radiating through her veins. But the sudden chaos exploded like a thunderclap. The group pushed through, wild-eyed and intent, finding every inch of the warehouse ripe for tension. "Wait! Stop!" she yelled as the chaos escalated, bodies colliding, chaos colliding, the thugs and the thugs' pursuers clashing in a storm of fists and fury. She felt her heart race, feeling it split. Could she really abandon this fight? Suddenly, through the swell of chaos, she spotted the CEO. He was battling against two thugs, grounded in brutal combat. His face was a mask of focus, each blow calculated, raw determination anchoring his every move. Desperately, she felt the pull of those she had left behind, igniting an unquenchable spark for action. "I can't just stand here," she cried, rushing toward the fray, the pounding in her heart igniting her steps. "Get down," the man in sunglasses shouted, leaping to join the chaos. But she couldn't let others die, couldn't let herself be a bystander to fate as she had earlier. "Stop," she cried out, fury igniting within her. "You don't have to do this." The chaos swirled around her, a cacophony of grunts, screams, desperation mixed with reckless courage. Didn't they know they could end this madness? Didn't they know that uniting their strengths, forging unexpected alliances, could transform fear into something powerful? Her voice cut through the fury, sharpened by newfound resolve. "We can win this if we all work together. Let us end the fighting, please." The words hung in the air, a lifeline thrown across a turbulent sea of chaos. And in that moment a flicker of hesitation. She caught the eyes of the thugs, the CEO, and the man in sunglasses, and saw it, a moment of recognition simmering beneath the surface. Would they listen? Would they find a way to turn this storm into a calm? As the roar of sirens drew ever closer, a glimmer of hope sparked in the darkness. Would unity break the cycle of pain? Only time would tell, as they faced their final confrontation, driven by the intertwining strength of hope and commitment. "Together," she called again, her voice rising above the chaos. "We can do this together." With breaths held tight, purpose surged into a collective spark. Would courage carry them into the light, or plunge them deeper into shadows once more? Destiny awaited, poised to unveil its final act, and the fallout would shape every heart that dared to dream. And in that fleeting moment of rising unity, the world around them seemed to shift as possibilities unveiled themselves like hidden treasures, waiting for brave hearts to seize the day. This was their moment. This was their shared future. The confrontation teetered on the edge of chaos and redemption as the air exploded with potential. Would they rise like warriors, or would the battle consume them, sending them spiraling into the unknown? The tension crackled around them, enveloping them in its indelible grip. Now or never. And in that heartbeat, they were more than just individuals, they were a team, and their united front shimmered with raw, fiery hope. But this was only the beginning.